How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? As you can see, I just finished the remasters of Soul Reaver 1 and Soul Reaver 2. I just beat the second one, and well, I'm glad that we got to finally play these classics again. There are some things in here that, let's just say, this is not how you bring back a classic. There's a lot of some of the music, I don't know what they did. They could have remixed it. Maybe because they don't have the rights to the original soundtrack, with the original games. I don't know. When I played the first game, most of the soundtrack is there, but some of them sound, I don't know, doesn't sound like the original. Sounds kind of odd. So yeah. All I have to say is that the ending is still pretty good. Well, it's not the ending. I mean, this is the first time I actually beat Soul Reaver 2. I beat the first game. I never beat the second game. I didn't check out the bonus content yet. I don't know what that is. Maybe it's some of the levels that they didn't put in the first game, in the original game, the cut content that got cut off from the first Soul Reaver. Maybe that's what the bonus content is. I'm going to check that out in a little bit. But yeah, so anyway, I beat the Soul Reaver 2. I beat it for the first time ever. Yeah, I'm not even joking. When it was out on the PS2, I remember I played it a little bit, and I remember I dropped it. I don't know why back in the day. I don't know why I did that, but gonna be honest, the second game is not as good as the first game. I know there are those who actually like the second game better than the first. I like the first better than the second. Yeah, everybody's different, so I don't know. The second game was just missing a lot of the boss battles that the first game had. The second game really is more of a narrative. It really is a bigger narrative than the first game when you really look at it, and I can see why they took a lot of it out. The second game's more puzzles and more narrative speaking than the first game. First game is more open to exploration. That's what I also noticed. Anyway, did you all know that? Did you all know that originally Legacy of Kain, the Soul Reaver, wasn't supposed to, the second game, well, what we have in the second game wasn't really supposed to happen in the first game, the original story. Kain was supposed to die in the first game, so the story was supposed to be radically different whenever they made a sequel, but I don't know, they changed it to, it kind of reminds me of Ocarina of Time. Originally, Ocarina of Time's ending was supposed to be time travel. The ending, they changed that into I don't need to go into that. Soul Reaver 1 reminds me of that. It reminds me of the same development stuff that happened. So there wasn't supposed to be time travel. Like, he wasn't supposed to go back in time, and that wasn't supposed to happen. The original content was supposed to be way different, but that's not what we got. So Soul Reaver 2, let me just as a heads up, the ending still kind of blows my mind that Raziel was the reason, going back in time was the reason all his brothers and him and himself were dead to be resurrected as vampires. That's insane. So yeah, they did a time a predestation time loop, with the story at the end of that. Well, something. When I first saw this series, I thought that the series had multiple timelines. I was wrong. No, there's not. It's one continuous timeline. It's just being overwritten. Unlike Terminator, where Terminator does have multiple timelines, this series does not. This is the whole thing where everything's just getting overwritten. So yeah. Anyway, what else do I got to say about this? Before I turn this off. Oh yeah, yeah. Defiance has to. They got to make Defiance. They got to remaster Defiance because that's the third game. Defiance is the third game. So I hope they bring that out very soon. I don't know why they freaking remastered 1 and 2 without giving us Defiance in the bundle, because that's the third story, you know. So that also concludes the first and second game. It concludes it. It shows us, you know, the conclusion. I don't know why they didn't give us the third game, or and of course Blood Omen 2. They should re-release after Defiance, because from a story perspective, that happens 400 years after Defiance, after what happened in Soul Reaver 2, you know, with the whole paradox that they did with the, you know, the history shuffling, you know. So you know how that goes if anybody's listening to this. So yeah, they need to release Defiance next. You know, even though Defiance originally got released after Blood Omen, the second Blood Omen, but they still need to release Defiance first and then release Blood Omen 2 later on. From a story standpoint, they need to release Defiance first. Defiance has to come first, because you know that takes place in the Blood Omen era, and then you know how that goes. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it there for now. Oh, and one more thing. I hope when we get Defiance, they okay. First and foremost, I hope this is not a cash grab. Because if this is a cash grab, that means those are not going to happen. They were just selling this to get a quick buck. They weren't interested in, you know, continuing the series. I hope that's not what's going on here. Yeah, you know. So, I'm hoping next year they've released a Legacy of Kain Defiance. They need to release that. And yes, remake Blood Omen 1, because that's the first game. So, anyway, I'm going to leave it there. All right, so, yeah. Talk to you all soon. Peace.